Hello and welcome to the RTÉ Soccer Podcast. I'm Anthony Pine, filling in this week for Raf Diallo. I'm joined by Conan Byrne and Keith Tracy to reflect on a busy few days of Premier Division action. Plenty to pour over after a Friday-Monday doubleheader. We might also check in with Keith. How is he doing? Arsenal are still hanging tough in the title race against the Manchester City juggernaut. It looks like that might go to the wire. And we'll also have a look ahead to the two Champions League semi-finals, which are both poised very nicely. PSG versus Borussia Dortmund is live on RT2 on Tuesday night. First of all, let's start with the reigning champions, Conan. Shamrock Rovers on the end of the most eye-catching result of the bank holiday weekend. They drew 1-1 with Bowls on Friday and then slipped to a 3-1 loss at Tallaght Stadium against Waterford. There's been a sort of general assumption, Conan, I think, that Rovers will just go up a gear at some point and normal service will be resumed. They've got an awful lot of injuries. You know, that's going to affect any team, but they still just can't quite get the momentum that we've seen before and maybe would have expected them at this point to just click into.
Yeah, they sit second in the league, only 3 points off Shells.
Yeah,
you know, it's it just goes to show the table that how it is at the moment. It's absolutely bizarre how the league is going. Obviously, Waterford had a game plan yesterday. The only team in the Premier Division actually to have a 100% record over the bank holiday weekend, winning both games. And full credit to them for their victory as well, because they played it excellently. I know Leon Poles will be disappointed with the first goal, and possibly the second one when McMenemy had a strike from all of 25, 30 yards. It seemed to the camera angle was a bit deceiving and didn't really show how quick the ball was, and then it ended up in the corner. It was just, I think I'd be disappointed now if I was Leon to concede a goal like that from distance. And then obviously the third, you could do nothing about. Sean Kavanagh, really poor on the ball in his own box, intercepted, and Parsons put in a wonderful shot in off the underside of the bar. So fair play to Waterford. I still do think Shamrock Rovers will come good. Like they play good football, Anthony, you know, at certain times. I think Stephen Bradley mentioned yesterday that it was one of their poorest performances of the season so far, and you could quite strongly agree with that statement. But I do still think with the injuries that they've had and players to come back in, that they'll win the league quite comfortably, in my opinion.
Would you go with that, Keith? I mean, that is a fair point. You're talking about Shamrock Rovers not quite hitting the heights and not gelling, and yet they are only 3 points off the top. So would you expect that to happen, that they will just eventually kind of take off and string together 5, 6, 7 wins on the bounce?
Yeah, I do expect that to happen at some point, but I don't think it's going to be a necessity for Shamrock Rovers. And I hate to do this because I love to say I think Derry are going to go and give us a good race, or Shelbourne will keep this going. But you'd imagine that when Europe rolls around, that Shelbourne squad is going to get really, really stretched. So they're going to, you know, get a couple of losses or a couple of dodgy results within the league if it doesn't happen before then. And Derry are already losing too many games. They're dropping games, you know, whatever about Shelbourne last night. They're dropping games against Galway. You know, I think Galway have took 4 points already off them this season. So I just don't see anybody having the consistency to go and beat Shamrock Rovers. And when Europe rolls around, we all know how they get into the mood. And the bench is just so good. They brought Neil Farrugia and Jack Byrne off the bench last night. So I know they got beaten, but as Conan's saying, there's 1 or 2 players now starting to come back into the mix. And I think they'll just go from strength to strength. And I don't see Derry having the consistency to go and put up a real challenge. And I don't see Shelbourne doing it either. St. Pat's have had a really poor start. So it's difficult to see who's going to go and take that mantle off them. And I think that Stephen Bradley will be looking at the rest of the league. Even they got beat yesterday and they're looking, are Derry going to go and win and really start putting some pressure on us? No, they go and draw. So they're probably just looking around going, they're not getting slapped on the wrist. They had a really, really poor start last season and they go and win the league comfortably by the end of it. So I don't think it's a necessity for them to go and do it, but I think they'll do enough anyway.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about Derry and Shells. We'll get to them, but let's give Waterford their flowers as well, Conan. Like, we can kind of get hung up, you know, on a result like this and focus on the bigger team, in this case Shamrock Rovers, but they're a good side, Waterford. They're 6th, they're 10 points clear of Dundalk, who are at the bottom of the table. They've got some handy players, very well set up, as you'd expect, by Keith Long. And you think, I mean, it's very difficult to say at this point who is actually going to go down or even be scrapping at the bottom in that division, but they look like they're going to be okay.
Yeah, and like I said, the 2 away victories over the weekend. Going up to the showgrounds. Don't know if we want to mention the calamity beforehand with the pitch. Unbelievable, really, how a club would think that the game could go ahead with 2 different surfaces. But thankfully, the game did go ahead eventually. And
if you just elaborate on that a little bit, Conan, just for people who maybe aren't aware that there was a patch of artificial turf around the penalty box, and the referee and his officials weren't happy with that.
Obviously, you wouldn't see it anywhere, and I don't know how a club can think that they can get away with it at elite level sport and professional setup in the League of Ireland. It beggars belief.
I think they had it had been deemed okay in previous games. I don't think it had been flagged in other games when they.
Which is ridiculous, though. Absolutely ridiculous, having 2 different surfaces on the one pitch at elite level sport in this country. What we want to have as a professional setup in this country, and we're doing all the right things in terms of the clubs looking after social media, getting people into the ground, the work done in the communities, but the product on the pitch and the infrastructure of the pitch has to be good, has to be proper. So I'm surprised that it got away with it for so long. And thankfully it was taken up, because it just, I just couldn't believe it when the pictures came through, because it's just not acceptable. But anyway, but for Waterford, it was a fantastic bank holiday weekend for them, like I said earlier. I think I don't know if maybe they're going under the radar a little bit. Like, they have a wonderful manager in Keith Long. He's brought in some players that he's used at Bohemians before, defensively, in Grant Horton and Radkowski. So they're solid at the back. Parsons in the middle, like we've talked about, he scores in the playoff final in Tala, and then goes up a couple of months later and then scores another one and off the underside of the bar against Shamrock Rovers. A really, really important goal at the time of the game. And I think the player that has probably gone under the radar the most this season has been Pádraig Amond. I think he's been absolutely sensational. He was brilliant again yesterday. He's got 6 goals this season. Age is a number to him. He's the work rate that he puts in up front has been extraordinary, and he'd be brilliant around that dressing room. So it was an absolutely brilliant signing for Waterford, getting him in, and he's hit the ground running this season, which has been great for Waterford and their supporters, and long may it continue down there.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you look at how tight it is around the bottom, someone like Pádraig Amond is a real difference maker. There's all those teams look solid, the likes of Drogheda and Galway, who are doing really well, but having someone like him in your team is, no doubt about it, it's going to give you an edge. Keith, let's chat about the 2 challengers, or the 2 teams that we would have expected to challenge for the league title before the season. Well, certainly Derry City and indeed Shells have probably exceeded expectations. In fairness to them, they are top of the table as it stands. You were on punditry duty last night for Virgin Media Sport. What did you make of the game, first of all?
I thought the first half was very forgettable. Wasn't an awful lot in it. I think the McMullen volley was the only thing that really came out of the first half. Other than that, it was very, very scrappy, touch tackles, and you get that on an Astro pitch. I've come on here and I've moaned about Astros before, so I'm not going to do that again. But it's not conducive to one touch football, 1-2 touch football, little ones around the corner. It sort of takes that away from you. But I thought it got an awful lot better in the second half. Both teams had a bit of a go. The McMullen goal, it's Shelbourne trying to play out from the back. Malloy just tries to play it into Lunny. It's only a yard off, but it's a lovely little finish from McMullen. Plays the first time into the corner. And then after that, Shelbourne, I wouldn't say they woke up, but when they bring Sean Boyd on, I thought, brilliant. This is exactly what they need, because Derry were squeezing the pitch. There was no runners in behind, and Sean Boyd will just go and occupy big Mark Connolly, and he will pin him there. And look, when the goal comes, Jarvis was huffing and puffing on the wing without really doing that. And Bort, the same, was wriggling free once or twice, but no real end product. And when Bort did wriggle free, he didn't have anybody to go and try and bounce off, so the 2 centre-halves could just go straight at him. So it was very difficult for Shelbourne to get any sort of foothold in the game. And I listened to Damien Duff's interview after it, and he's saying, we dominated the ball, we were outstanding tonight. I have a very different view to that. I thought they they were quite standoffish. They had very little threat and attack. They had one shot on target in the 90 minutes of the game. So they had the lion's share of the ball, but they had no threat, very, very little threat within the 90 minutes. So to come away from that with a 1-1 draw, the goal from Sean Boyd is excellent. It's brilliant. If you actually, for any young striker watching it, he's in the middle of the pitch and the ball gets played out to the left wing. He doesn't turn and just run into the box. He spins out and he gives it time to develop, and he's watching it, and then he just bursts across the front post. Lovely little flick. And then it's 1-1 all of a sudden. The Derry defenders were pretty much helpless because the timing was absolutely excellent from the ball and the run. But there's little holes starting to appear in Shelbourne. That wasn't a really good performance for me in the last couple of weeks. Although there's circumstances within the games, they've had one or two decent performances, but it just starting to look a little bit patchy from them now. They're a very, very fit, very strong team. They're very capable. They make very few mistakes. Last night aside. And they'll be absolutely fine this season. But I just hope the Shelbourne fans don't start running away with themselves, because they've had a lot of success over the short period of time now. This is only their third season in the Premier League. They're in Europe now. They're top of the league. And I just feel that if Shelbourne all of a sudden in a couple of months' time are third and they're out of Europe, the mood music would change very quickly there, but it shouldn't. Because as a whole, it's gone absolutely brilliantly. And some of the little signings, like Sean Gannon has been an outstanding signing. A couple of people were saying maybe his legs are gone. He's not as quick as he was. He looks absolutely fine still at this level. He doesn't look to have lost a yard. So yeah, look, I think Shelbourne will be fine. But in terms of actually contending for the league and pushing Shamrock Rovers, I'd like to think so. But I just don't see it happening. I think their squad is not big enough. I think they're starting 11, one or two off the bench, really, really strong. But other than that, I don't think they have the strength and depth to do what Damien Duff would want them to do over the course of a season.
What about Derry then, Conan? I mean, is there anything there? Do you see anything in them that they can possibly sustain, something resembling a title challenge?
I don't know if they will win it. And put me neck on the line here. I don't know if they will win a league title with an artificial surface. I just don't. I don't see it. They just lose too much. They don't pick up enough points at home to challenge. And unless that changes, very quickly, that'll be the case. Their away form is pretty decent. Their home form, they have won 2 of the last 3 games at home, which has been impressive. But at the same time, I think that's the worry. Is that the pitch last night, it's not conducive to playing football. And in our league now, that's the way most managers want to play. So it's very difficult to get a ball down, because, as Keith knows, probably less so more than me, because I need to take that extra touch sometimes with the touch that I have. But you have to concentrate a whole lot more when a ball is getting fizzed into you on an artificial surface rather than a grass surface. So you don't have the awareness, or you don't feel like you have the awareness to be able to see a man going outside you or on the inside of you, because the concentration levels of being able to take a good first touch on that surface is a little bit higher than one on a grass surface. So there is those small little bits of technical stuff that need to be brought into, taken into account when in playing in those surfaces. And we can see Rory probably being under a little bit of pressure now up there. Stephen O'Donnell played an artificial surfaces manager at Dundalk, and look where he is now. And he is a manager that did really, really well at St. Pat's, very successful, but playing the right way, playing out from the back, energy, enthusiasm. But up in Dundalk surface, you just can't do it. It can't be replicated on an artificial surface. So that would be my thinking around Derry. They have got wonderful players. Houben has hit the ground running, top scorer again so far this season. Will Patching has done okay. Adam O'Reilly in midfield is really good. Brian Maher in goal. So their players are individually playing well. It's just the collective nature of playing on a pitch like that it's just not working. And it's nearly playing, you're not, as Liam Buckley used to always say to us as players, you nearly are playing by chance on surfaces like that and not by design. And that's what it feels like with Derry at the moment.
We praised Waterford, but what about the other newly promoted team, Galway United? They're up to 4th and are going really, really well. They dug out a deserved win at Bowls on Monday. so far so good. Conan, they look like a team that you'd hate to face. Everything about them is just so physical and organised and gritty, and they do have quality as well.
Yeah, I saw a stat last night. They've played 14 games. They scored 8 goals, and yet they have 20 points. Like, pretty remarkable. Brendan Clark in goal, 5 clean sheets in his last 6 games. A wonderful addition to Galway United. In terms of bringing them from Shelburne last year into the first division, and then doing so well this season. You need somebody with that type of presence in the dressing room. Gather the troops, and he'd be like that along with Conor McCormack as well. The duo of John Coffin and Ollie Horgan is working a treat, doing really well, playing everything down all the time in the media like they do. But even the goal they scored yesterday, I know Keith Long will be tearing his hair out with the goal itself, goalkeeper beating at his near post. But young Maurice Nugent getting the goal, been at the club since 2015 in the academy. So it's great to see young players coming through there at Galway, and there's some very good young players there. I don't see, like, obviously they're sitting in fourth at the moment. I can't see that them staying there. But in terms of John Caulfield and Ollie Horgan, their main aim this season would have been to avoid relegation, and certainly a bonus would have been to avoid the relegation playoff. And it looks like they're going to do that because of their quality on the pitch and their tactical battles. And another thing that is probably worth mentioning is the overall quality of the league. I don't think I can pick one player out that is player of the year so far. And even when I'm watching matches, I don't know if Keith can agree with me there on this, it's very difficult to pick one player of the match in any game that I've watched this season. It's like they're all tactical battles. There's not a player that has stood out in any game that I've watched as if to say, wow, they have been really good. I haven't seen it. So that's just something that I hope doesn't come in. We're seeing a lack of goals all across the League of Ireland. I think there's only an average of 2 a game, which is not great. But at the same time, it's the tactical. Now, as a neutral, I love the tactical battles between different managers and different teams and how they set up, and really enjoy watching the games like that. But if you're looking to entice supporters to the League of Ireland, which we have done magnificently well over the last number of years, you want excitement. You want players to perform and go out and grab games with a scruff of the neck, go buy players, shoot from 30 yards, all those type of things. But just haven't seen it that much this season, Anthony. It's just a bit of a worry for me.
Yeah. Just a word on Bolzane, Keith, because Alan Reynolds was not a happy man on Monday after that defeat. He made 3 changes at half time. He said after the game it wasn't acceptable. I mean, it was always going to take him a bit of time to sort of get his hands around the squad and mold it in his own image, I guess. What have you made of them over the last few weeks?
I think there has been a bit of an improvement since Declan Devine has gone out the door, but they made some. See, Galway for me they're a good team. They know what to do and when to do it. They make very few mistakes. They have a very simplistic game plan, and that's not a poke. I like a simplistic game plan as a player. If I was told to get it, run down the wing, cross it, brilliant. My job is easy as you like. But if you look at the Galway goal from last night, they have a throw in. And they're set up like they're about to throw it long into the box, and Bows are set in the box. And then all of a sudden they go short, little ticky-tacky, runs into the box. The goalkeeper should save it. I take that point. But Galway have obviously thrown a couple of long balls into the box. Bows have thought, oh, here we go again. It's coming in again. Get set for that. And all of a sudden, a little bit of off-the-cuff stuff. And it's good. You're just keeping them thinking. So Bows are set up for that. They play short. If they're set up to play short, they will go long. And I think Bows will be okay. They have some very, very good attacking players. A lot of people, Akatunde, I like him. James Clark, I love watching him. I think technically he's a high level player. He 1 or 2 touches. Dylan Connolly as well is a little speedster on the wing, can get you on your edge of the seat. But I just think they give up too many goals, way too many goals. So again, could Bows come out with a pack and maybe push Shamrock Rovers and give us a proper title race? I don't think so. I just think it's too flaky, and a lot of what Conan's saying is very true. There's so much talent in the league now that there's no whipping boys. It's not everybody's going to be playing for something. So the bottom lads are going to be pushing. And I think everybody's going to beat everybody. But towards the end, Shamrock Rovers will just poke their head above the water, and it'll all just be that familiar old story of Shamrock Rovers pushing away. And I'm sorry to be wrapping up the league already at this early stage, but I don't see anybody giving us that consistent run of form to go and challenge Shamrock Rovers, and that's probably where the league is at right now. It's well spread talent, but I think Shamrock Rovers have so much talent in the starting 11 and the bench that you just can't back against them. But given their course and distance, they've done so many times.
Yeah, I mean, it's so difficult for anyone to string together a consistent run of wins, but St. Pat's, Conan, consistently inconsistent. That they did beat Drogheda on Friday night 1-0, and then fell to a 1-0 loss at Sligo on Monday. If Sligo were to win their game in hand, the Pats would be third from bottom. What's happening? What's not happening there, or what are the issues you think they're facing? Because again, like there's an awful lot of quality there. It just hasn't really clicked yet for them.
Is there? I haven't seen it yet, Anthony. I've seen a lack of hunger, a weakness maybe within the squad. Take their goal yesterday, for example. Mulroney pushed off the ball way too easily, and unlike Jamie Lennon in midfield, where he should be coming in and winning that challenge right in the middle of the park, he doesn't, when usually he would. And now, don't take anything away from Ellis Chapman's strike. Wonderful strike, 25 yards into the bottom corner. But even their missed chances beforehand, Rory Keaton had a wonderful opportunity, and I think it was in around the 8th minute. And then Conor Keeley up from the back from a set piece should have scored as well. So they are missing chances. There probably was an over-reliance on Keating at the start of the season. And when he got injured, there was nobody to fill that void. You're trying to rely on Mason Media, who is a wonderful talent, but they're putting a lot of pressure on 16-year-old's shoulders. Alex Nolan has done particularly well when he plays him out wide. Did really well against Shamrock Rovers when they defeated him at Inchicore. Yeah, it's just like you say, just so inconsistent in their play, and a lack of hunger and drive, which is something that is worrying as well. I think they were very lucky to get the 3 points against Drogheda on Friday night. Drogheda did have opportunities to score, to equalise. So yeah, worrying times at Inchicore, absolutely. But I'm not one to have a go or at a manager or anything like that. That's not my area. But you have to remember that in of what he has done since in last year when he won the FAI Cup. It's early days in the season. No team has been consistent this season. Shelbourne were at the very start, and that's why they're 3 points clear. They've won win in 8. Now I know Pats have 1 win in 6, 3 defeats out of those 6 games, and only I think 3 goals scored, which is a poor return over the last 6 games. But nobody's been consistent this year, Anthony. Galway, perhaps, given where they've come from, you could say that they've done really well. Waterford as well, but yeah, it's disappointing just in terms of some of the performances of individuals at Pats that I've been angered about.
Well, let's then just finally, Keith, touch on the Louth Derby. Drogheda United bet Dundalk 2-1 with a very late winner there at Weavers Park. And when Conan talks about desire and hunger and commitment and the lack thereof within St. Pat's, it's not something you could level at Drogheda United. They had this strange thing, Drogheda, where I think they conceded 5 goals in the 45th minute or in first half stoppage time, which kind of suggests maybe a fragility there, or a lack of concentration. But like when you watch them, Kev Doherty really gets everything out of that group, and they probably should have more points on the board. Maybe it's just a lack of quality in the top third. But that was a big win for them yesterday, wasn't it?
Yeah, huge win. And Noel King seemed to have really, that new manager bounce for Dundalk seemed to have been doing well for them, but it's a real sucker punch in the last minute of the game to go and lose it. But I'm delighted for my old club Drogheda, because I've played in a couple of Louth derbies where Dundalk were absolutely pumping us for a long time. So it's nice to see. It's not a pumping, but it's nice to see the reverse for once now. So yeah, look, really good from Drogheda. And a lot of people are tipping them to be the ones to go down this season automatically, but I just don't see it. I watched them against Pats on Friday night, and I would second what Conan is saying. Pats were lucky. You know, now look, Pats had their own chances. Chris Forrest had a good header. Kavanagh had one he should have finished as well in that game. But I think it was the centre half, Can, who scored the last minute goal against Dundalk. He had a really good chance against Pats. It was on the edge of the 6-yard box, and it was just a fresh air shot. Completely missed it, but he looked more than capable. Last night. It was a really good finishing. That could be just something to galvanise Drogheda. You know, as much as it will hurt Dundalk, you would expect them to bounce back. Noel King will get them back on the wagon, but Drogheda now will just be feeling we're rolling into some feel-good factors. They're unlucky not to get a draw, maybe even win the game against Pats on Friday night, and last night they go and nick it in the last minute. So there'll be a real feel-good factor there, but they'll be looking over their shoulders at Dundalk on 9 points now. I know they've gone to beat them, but they need to go and catch Sligo there on 17 points, and after that it's Pats. So you'd expect Pats' form to pick up. I think it's Sligo, Drogheda and Dundalk are looking the most likely, and that's great credit to Galway and Waterford. The two boys have come up, because usually you'd expect them to be there or thereabouts, but they're looking really strong at the early stages.
Let's just segue very quickly towards the FAI Intermediate Cup final, because that was played at Drogheda at Weavers Park last week, and Conan, one of your old teammates, Killian Brennan, still doing it, playing for Glebe North, who bet Mahon Rangers 3-2 after extra time. Reece Weldon scored the winning penalty there. I think Killian is he 40 now?
He's 40, yeah.
Still going strong. And that was a great occasion, by the way. There was a really good crowd down at Weavers Park for that game. And hats off to Killian, still going strong, like yourself. You're playing with River Valley Rangers as well. Can actually just tell us a little bit of like what's it like to go from playing, like to have such a long League of Ireland career and then to play amateur football? Like, is there challenges? Is it difficult? Obviously the standard is not quite the same, but I'd imagine there's their own challenges when you have to try and play in front of maybe smaller crowds, worse pitches. Like, can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I actually think that it's a good question, Anthony, because I think the worst thing is being able to understand, I suppose, that your teammates, not that they're lack quality or anything like that, but how to talk to them. Like a professional level sport, you can really like pin someone up against the wall and be able to take it and for not doing their job and all that type of stuff. But with amateur football, it's completely different. In terms of communication, that's what I've noticed, and in terms of professionalism as well. I couldn't understand like lads missing training and then just throwing up a pint of Guinness saying sorry lads, can't make it today. That type of stuff. It took me a while to get used to that. But in terms of the quality, like, look, there's a huge difference between the two. Don't get me wrong, but there's some wonderful quality in amateur football. And it's great. I love the game. I don't ever want to not play football. So that was the reason why I'm still playing and playing locally with my local team. But it's something that is just in you. You just I can't give it up because I love it that much. And it's trying to help others then as well, because you might see one or two young players in particular that do have a good talent and that could possibly play at a higher level, and trying to give them good advice on that, you know. And
you actually coached Glebe's match winner Reece Weldon at some point as well when he
when he was younger. Yeah, he went to St. Joseph's Secondary School in Rush, and I was their football coach for a year or two, and Reece was in sixth year, and again he was very talented. So yeah, I coached him during his sixth year. So gave him some. Yeah, I remember him, he was getting a bit hot-headed one day in particular, and in training when we were training after school, and I just remember pulling him to the side and just chatting to him a little bit about commitment and his communication with other players, because it was getting a bit out of control. But he went to America and got a scholarship out there, as far as I know now. And then he came home and has played with Glebe for quite a while. And yeah, delighted when I saw his name pop up after scoring the winning penalty. It was after scoring the winner. It wasn't in a shootout or anything, but it was great. Great to see him. Great to see him. The joy in his face hasn't changed a bit actually since sixth year.
Yeah, a great day for Glebe Norton. They're managed, of course, by Darius Kearns, who was had a stint managing Dundalk and Drogheda United. So congratulations to them. Just to rattle through the first division results, Cork City and Wexford played out 1-1 draw at Turner's Cross. That was Cork's first home game in 4 weeks after the repair work that was required on the pitch at Turner's Cross. They're still unbeaten and they are 8 points clear of UCD at the top of the table. Cove Rammers bet UCD 2-1. Jack Larkin and Matthew McKevitt with the goals for them. Dean Ebbs' goal early in the second half saw Athlone Town win 1-0 at RTÉ United. Longford got past Kerry 2-1 thanks to first half goals from Francis Campbell and Luke Wade-Slater. And Shane Griffin found the net to give Bray a 1-0 victory over Finn Harps. In the women's Premier Division, informed Galway United, who are going really well over there. There's a lot of good stuff happening over there actually within Galway United at the moment. They were too strong for DLR Waves. They won 4-0 in front of a record crowd, 2,861 fans at Eamon DC Park to see that game. Record crowd, the biggest crowd in the history of the Women's National League. Treaty bet Cork City 3-0. Wexford were convincing 4-1 winners against Sligo. Shamrock Rovers slipped to a 2-0 loss against reigning champions Peamount at Tallaght Stadium. And Shells got the better of Bowls 1-0 in their derby clash at Talca Park. Noel Murray got her 100th goal in style. Conan, I know you don't like talking about your goal from the halfway line, so we won't bring it up. But it was reminiscent of a famous Conan Byrne goal for Noel. It was a fantastic moment for her. Now let's just very quickly, Keith, if I can ask you about Kieran McKenna, because he's just led Ipswich Town to the Premier League. 37 years old, Fermanagh native, Kieran. He left Man United, where he was first team coach, and took over Ipswich. They were 12th in League One, Keith, when he took them over. He got them up to the Championship. He spent about £4 million, and then he took them up again. Now, when you consider he's up against Southampton, Leicester, the teams that came down and got the Premier League parachute payments, that is a serious coaching achievement, what he's done there, isn't it?
It's off the scale. It really is. I don't think people have quite took in how big an achievement it is to do back-to-back promotions is something that's it's crazy. It really is crazy. But sometimes I'm looking at this and not to be negative about it, but in the back of my own head, I'm thinking, is this a bit of a flash in the pan? Is Kieran McKenna, is he going to go on to be a brilliant coach and a brilliant manager? But you look at his CV. He retired from playing football at 22 with a hip injury. Went straight into coaching from 22. He was the under-18s boss at Spurs. Then he was the under-18s boss at Manchester United. Then Mourinho brings him into the first team. He sticks around there as part of the coaching staff. Mourinho leaves. Solskjaer takes a look at him and thinks, yeah, I like this guy. I'm going to keep him around myself. And Ralph Rangnick does the same. So he clearly has a pedigree that, all these people can't be wrong, can't be looking at him and thinking, I'm not too sure. They would have wanted their own people to come in the door. The fact that they've kept him there means he's extremely good at his job and he understands what he's doing. And the fact that he's stepped out now with Ipswich doing his own thing and he's gone and done back-to-back promotions. As an Irishman, I'm thinking, please, somebody persuade this fella to go and take the Irish job, but you wouldn't begrudge him a chance at having a swipe at the big boys in the Premier League. And I'm on the edge of my seat waiting to see how they do it. I think they'll need a couple of players. I hope they don't deviate away from what they are in the Championship. They were excellent. They only lost 6 games all season. I know Leicester won the league, but they were the best team for me within it. They were tougher to beat. They scored the most goals. And they were really good to watch. So I hope they don't deviate away from what they were. I hope they don't start trying to, this modern coach start trying to reinvent the wheel. Just go and stay in the Premier League by any means possible. And I hope they do it. And it's been really, really encouraging. And little things like that just give you hope, don't you? When these big clubs, an ex-club of mine like Sheffield Wednesday, when they drop down the leagues, you're thinking it's going to be years before they'll ever find themselves back at the top of the tree. But just take a look at Ipswich. It can turn around so quickly if you get the right man, the right environment, and the right momentum just going in the right direction. So look, it's excellent. I don't think I can praise it as good as I should, but it's unbelievable stuff. And already my mind is switched to, can they stay in the Premier League next season? And I hope they can.
Yeah, absolutely. A famous old club, and they'll be well worth a watch next year, which would be interesting to see how they get on. Okay, we're up against the clock here, so we are just going to very quickly look, Conan, at the Champions League semi-finals and just maybe get a couple of predictions off you. First up is PSG and Dortmund. PSG are 1-0 down after the first leg last week. That second leg is on Tuesday night on RT2 and the RT player. Are PSG going to turn that around, Conan?
I don't know, because I loved the way Dortmund played the game against PSG. Their counter attacking play was really good. Was excellent, and Fulkrug probably should have got another one. He had a great opportunity to make it 2-0. And I just think with the players that they have within their squad, the midfield of, like, in terms of Sabitzer was excellent. And Emre Can, I thought he was very good on the night as well. Just breaking up play, keeping the ball, playing it simple when he did get it. So I think those two players will frustrate the life out of PSG. It's just whether if they can hold it off till half time. I think that'd be the big thing for Dortmund. If they can hold it at 0-0 or sneak a goal in the first half, it will give them a wonderful opportunity to go on and win the game. But I was seriously impressed with them last Wednesday. So yeah, I give them a very good chance. With PSG, they can just get frustrated very, very quickly. Mbappe, if they can keep him quiet, if the other players call him Moani, good centre forward. Barcola, hit and miss at times. I don't think he's a finished product just yet. And Dembele with the assists that he can create is always very dangerous. But with the lads at the back at Dortmund, the likes of Hummels and Schlotterbach, I think they have a wonderful opportunity to go into the final of the Champions League. And yeah, who could deny them the opportunity? Because as I said, the first leg display was brilliant. So if they can continue on from the first leg, sneak a goal, you never know what might happen.
Yeah, and on Wednesday night, the other game isn't too bad either, Keith. This is Real Madrid and Bayern Munich 2 apiece after a great first leg last week. You would think that Real Madrid don't usually lose games like this on their own patch, but you never know. Bayern Munich, it's all or nothing for Bayern now for Tuchel and Kane and the rest. So there's something about that they have tended to pull out some excellent performances to get to this point, and they're going to need another one tomorrow night.
Yeah, and I wouldn't put it against them. I do think Madrid are the better team. I think they just know how to win, and you know I love that about this Real Madrid team and Ancelotti. That doesn't matter if it's City. If you want to keep the ball for as long as you want, no problem. We'll get it. We'll just destroy us when we do. I just love how they got it. It doesn't look like to be tactically bogged down on things, but you look at Kane, Sané, Musiala, even Thomas Muller still doing really well at this level. He's just seems to be evergreen. But you think Vinicius Junior, Bellingham was poor in the first leg. Even the stuff with Kane, the penalty stuff, chatting in his ear, I didn't think that was great. But the two centre halves for Bayern Munich do worry me, and I know Kim wasn't great in the first leg. Eric Dyer is not somebody I'd have huge confidence in, but he was better in the first leg than Kim was. But when Vinicius Junior spins Kim, it was something you'd see up in Fairview Park. Managers will tell players, I want you to be aggressive, I want you to be on the front foot. If a speedster is going into the middle of the pitch and you're vacating all that space in behind you, the lesser evil is of the two balls, is to let him get it to his feet and let somebody else deal with it. If you go into that space, he's just going to spin you. And you've seen it happening a mile away, but it still happened. And then he gives away the penalty against Rodrigo, and you're thinking, oh, this fella. But that's what Real Madrid do. They will pick a weakness and they will just keep hammering it and hammering it and hammering it, and they will get some results out of it. So I think Madrid will just hang on. They will find a weakness in that Bayern Munich centre defence line, and they'll get some goals. And then you're over to Harry Kane and to see how many he can score. But what I will say is this is all in for Bayern. Real Madrid have won the league now. They have something. I'm not saying that they will be content and won't really care about this, but they will have a feeling of being content. Whereas Bayern really outclassed in the league by Bayer Leverkusen. This is all in. They need to win something. So maybe it's a bigger game for Bayern, but I don't think Madrid will be viewing it like that. So I would go for Madrid to get the job done.
Okay, well, two brilliant games to look forward to for sure. Just to wrap up, Keith, we are a week into the month of May, and Arsenal are top of the Premier League, and yet there's this general feeling that the inevitable is coming, that City are going to just mop up their last 4 matches and win another league. Would you go with that? Are you allowing yourself, because you are a big Arsenal fan, of course, are you allowing yourself to get excited, or is there just this feeling of doom that it's coming over the hill and they just won't be stopped?
Yeah, it just feels inevitable to me that it's coming. And I backed Manchester City all season, so I'm not going to jump ship all of a sudden and say I think Arsenal are going to win the league. I'm still hopeful. I still have that little fan in the back of me just saying it could happen. Maybe they'll slip up. But you look at the 3 games that Manchester City have: Fulham at home, Fulham away. Fulham are a decent team, but again, you just expect Manchester City to go and get the win. And in the build-up to these games, they played Wolves a couple of days ago. Erling Haaland scores 4, the team scores 5, and you're thinking, that doesn't look to be weaknesses. They don't look to be stuttering. And my hope at this end of the season was that Manchester City had a couple of injuries. They were in the semi-finals of the Champions League. They were starting to look a little bit disjointed. It doesn't look like that. They look like they can't believe they're out of the Champions League, and the minimum they want to do now is do a double. So I think they're going to win the Premier League. I have a little bit of hope that Spurs could possibly do something against them, but
no chance.
How can you go back a Spurs team, Conan? Do you know what I mean? When the manager's coming off the pitch, he's coming off the pitch and saying he doesn't care about set pieces. If that was anybody else, they'll be up evil. But look, maybe it could click, high lines all over the place. Maybe Manchester City are wasteful, don't hit the back of the net. That's the Arsenal fan talking. But the pundit, I think they go and get 9 points from now till the end of the season. And Arsenal could pick up 6. And when that's in the back of your head, you could do everything you can possibly do, but you won't win the league. It can work against you. But look, the good thing for me as an Arsenal fan is this time last season, the wheels fell off and we were nowhere to be seen. A little bit like Liverpool. We haven't done a Liverpool this season. We seem to have a bit more backbone. And I don't like saying that. It's not that I don't mind finishing second, but it's Manchester City. These are juggernauts. They're probably 2 of the best players in every position. It's mental. So to be competing with them over 38 games, I'm happy with me lot. We could still even win it next season. I'll be a little bit more greedy in me thinking.
Yeah, and look, Pep Guardiola has to leave at some stage. Might open the door for everyone else. Okay, listen, lads, thanks for that. We will wrap it up there. As I said, PSG versus Borussia Dortmund is live on RT2 on the RTÉ player on Tuesday night. We're all looking forward to that. That's us, and we'll be back again next week when Raf will be back in the hot seat. Thanks again, Conan and Keith. Good luck.